Welcome back to Digi Bros.
Welcome back,
we
bitches.
just got the running shoes.
Got the running shoes.
I didn't realize they were here at all. Oh, it's got a letter from your mom.
Oh, cool.
Or no, yeah, okay, yeah.
Don't tell me what to do, Mom. Woo!
Oh, yeah!
Running around in my banana shoes.
Running around in
Running
the
around in my
speedo
banana shoes.
For totally different songs there, but that's okay.
I went for one about shoes. You just went for Sonic.
Alright, so we've talked about, you know, getting into
shit.
the Pokemon anime and the video game, but let's talk about what was probably the most important part of Pokemon when it came out.
Oh, shit.
The cards.
Whoa!
Fucking Pokemon cards.
Beer, 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 beer.
Pokemon cards were the shit.
They
because
were the
that
shit.
was like the Pokemon games tried to be social games because they
Yeah.
had the link cables and the whole trading and everything, but like no one had all that shit.
Yeah. And you don't want jackasses to steal your Pokemon by trading
Yeah.
over to your game and then, like, running away with
Because that's
them.
the thing, like, everyone wanted to like, okay, you would get, like, a Machoke, and you'd be like, I want this to become a Machamp. And the only way to do that is by trading it, but, like, I think the Pokemon logic was broken in this regard, right? Because they were expecting you to just trade away your Machoke, and then the other person gets a Machamp. Like, I think that's what their logic was somehow.
Yeah.
No one wants that. You
Yeah.
want your Machamp, but you can't trust
and no one's
anyone.
gonna trade you back your Machamp.
Right.
Like,
you can't
they
trust
would
anyone to
fuck
trade
you.
it back.
And there would always be the kid who was like, oh yeah, I could duplicate your Pokemon, and then you trade him your Pokemon and he just takes your Pokemon.
Right.
You're like, why? What a jackass.
Well, I never really had it happen to me, but it was
that
always
kid
threatened.
Jerome.
No, Jerome would always threaten to do it, but he never actually did it.
I think I remember doing it.
I never had him actually steal one of my Pokemon, but he would always be like, oh ho ho, I'm not gonna give it back, and like, you know, walk away with it all like, you'd be like, come on man, give me back my Pokemon, and then he'd be like, alright,
shit, Jerome.
Pokemon, you know? He was just doing it to fuck with you,
Yeah.
but like, but that was always the thing, like, no one wanted to trade because we'd be like,
Yeah, you didn't
afraid
trust
that it was
anyone.
gonna get stolen.
Because kids are shit.
Right. And, like, so, yeah, like, the whole trading, and like, with battling, no one's ever at the same point in the game. No one's
Yeah.
ever got the same type of Pokemon, so no one wants to fucking battle, you know? At least not at our age. Like, I think battling was more popular with, like,
I
teenagers
still never got to
and shit.
battle anyone after beating the Elite Four, man. That's all I ever want to do is, like, have someone else play the game, we both beat the Elite Four, then we battle, and just, I'm always faster
Didn't me and
than
you battle in
everyone.
X and Y?
I don't think we did because I beat it, like, way before you got there.
I mean, I have like a level 99 Garchomp in that game.
Oh,
so,
God.
like, I could totally fucking do it.
I'm sure
you
you
know?
rail me now, but now you're way far ahead. That's why you have to do it right when you beat the Elite Four.
Right.
Because that way you're at the same level.
But anyways, yeah, no one would ever want to trade. But with cards, everyone wanted to play together. Everyone wanted to trade. Everyone wanted to have cards. And we would get the shit out of Pokemon cards. Because I think we've explained this on the show before, that, like, growing up, you know, my mom has, like, I would say a frugal mindset. Like, just in general. My dad does not. My dad is spend money all the time. I don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
If it'll make you stop crying, I'll buy you the thing. My mom is, we don't have the money for that. So, but her mindset is weird, because she'd never want us to get anything more than $5.
Yeah.
But if it was $5, we'd get it all the time.
Yeah.
So we got Pokemon cards all the time, because they're relatively inexpensive, you know. If we
Apparently
went
they were
out,
pretty expensive at certain places.
it depends on where
They
you
would have to blow
went.
a lot.
They could go anywhere from $3 to $10, depending on where you got a pack. It did not matter to us where we got them. We just wanted them all the time. But, like, you know, like, pretty much once a week, our parents would take us out somewhere and we'd get Pokemon cards. And if I got a holo and Victor didn't, Victor would cry until my dad bought him enough Pokemon card packs that he got a holo. And Victor did not appreciate this at all as a kid.
I was a child,
he
and
had
I don't
no
remember.
concept of money whatsoever.
Of course.
But yeah, because we basically traded off being, and I remember like asking my mom,
Whoa,
things like,
what'd I do?
Whoa,
I hit R.
You shouldn't have pressed any buttons that weren't the main buttons. Don't press
It was an
any
accident.
buttons that aren't the main buttons.
There we go.
Because I programmed weird shit to all of them.
Oh.
Anyway, Mom would like would even tell me, like, if I was like, Mom, I really want that Nerf gun, and she'd like, that's $25, that's 5 packs of Pokemon cards, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to lose 5 packs of Pokemon cards, you know, because
Yeah.
I liked having them all.
That's pretty much how that always went.
Right. So, like, So we would get Pokemon cards, and we got all of them, like, twice over all of them. You know, like, we had the whole original base set, we had the whole second series and third series, and, like, and then we had doubles out the fucking ass. We have a huge box of doubles in, I think, Shade's Closet is where they are now, right?
Yeah.
And just tons and tons of fucking Pokemon cards. Binders full of them, you know. Had all the supposedly rare cards, even though there actually aren't any, like, actual rare cards. Like, all the holos are equally common. For some reason, everyone thought Charizard was impossible to find.
It was
Charizard was worth $100, but it was completely artificial scarcity of Charizard.
Artificial scarcity of Charizard. Beautiful. Because it was the coolest card.
But it did feel rare, because you would never get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, then you'd also, like, I never got Venusaur was the one I never got.
I had, like, 10 Magnetons and no Charizard for a long time, you know? And when I finally got one, it was base set 2. So, like, the repressing of the original set.
I had that Charizard, man.
So, like,
one.
So, yeah, we were always, like, trading and playing with friends and stuff. But more importantly, we played in Pokemon League.
Whoa! Bow, 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 bow.
So, Pokemon League... I don't know if they had this in other countries, or even in all states or cities.
Yeah.
But Pokemon League was a weekly event that was held at certain stores.
Comic stores, Toys R Us.
Yeah, like I think Toys R Us was where we first did it.
Yeah.
And then, like basically you would go to Toys R Us, and they'd have a room dedicated, like just with tables set up everywhere. And fucking tons of people would come in and just battle and trade each other. And they had a system where, like, you would collect points based on how many battles you did or how many trades you did. And, like, you got more points for winning, but you still got a point for losing. And then you got, like, you know, points for trades and stuff like that. And if you added up enough points, you'd get, like, rare cards that were exclusive to Pokemon League and shit like that.
Promo cards.
Yeah, promo cards. That's what they were called. And so, you know, your mission was basically just to play a lot of Pokemon, get promos, and, you know, and hang out with all these people. You know, we were pretty young, and a lot of the kids were around our age, but then there was also, like, the older kids. And, like, the teenagers were always amazing at the game. Because they actually strategized and, like, bought individual cards.
They could
and,
comprehend what was going on, and they would read the cards, which I would not.
We were remembering there was a dude who was, like, 15 or so named Spike. Or he went by Spike because he had spiky hair. And he was, like, the guy. Like, the unbeatable guy at Pokemon League who had, like, all the themed decks that he had built, you know, and, like, all this special shit. Because, you know, with Pokemon, you always wanted to build a two-color deck, basically. Like, two different types that played off of each other because there's a limited number of energies you can use. So, like, people would always build different decks and shit to play with different scenarios and stuff like that. And, yeah, so, like... We would go to Pokemon League every week, and we'd play all these fucking games with all these people, and, you know, we were probably pretty mediocre at the game overall, but, like, I don't think we were terrible.
Really play with anyone most of the time because I was way too shy. So I'd mostly play with Conrad, or, like, find someone else sometime, but mostly, like, float around, not wanting to do anything.
And we were very, like, we didn't trade a lot because our mom, you know, was always with us, and she was very, like, the trade has to be, like, monetarily worth it. Yeah. You know, she was always, like, the one
calculating
around
our trades.
Well, because we had Beckett Anime Collector, which is a magazine that was like a monthly Pokemon magazine, and every issue would have a complete listing of what the cards were selling for at the time. Like basically eBay or comic store price guides. So every Beckett had a huge price guide for the current set of cards, and Mom would, you know, bring those with her and check the prices of their cards against ours and make sure that all the trades were legit, basically. Yeah. Because she knew that older guys would fuck you over to try to get the nice cards, you know. So, yeah, so they were, you know, we would go to these events and everything, and, you know, they were a lot of fun, and we did them for a long time. Eventually, as Pokemon started waning in popularity, Toys R Us stopped doing it, but comic stores were doing it. And so there was a Comic Kings or Comic Chest, which is near the house we just lived in.
Yeah, which is gone now.
But at the time was a huge drive for us. Yeah, sadly gone. I think because I'm pretty sure the old black guy who ran it died.
Oh god.
Because he stopped being there at some point.
Did he?
Yeah, like there was a period where the Asian dude who was like the vice manager became the guy who was there all the time, and the black guy was just gone. So I assumed he died because he was old as fuck. And then I'm guessing not long after that they just closed it up. But and they were still running like card leagues every weekend, you know, up until they closed like 5 years ago. But yeah, so we would go to Pokemon League at Comic Chest, and it was funny because they had like the guy who ran the place was this old black dude who was very particular about the rules, and like every day every time he'd give some kind of, he'd make everybody be quiet, and he'd give some long speech about like respect and treating each other with respect and everything. Oh god, it was so annoying.
It's like and then you feel like you did something wrong when you didn't do anything.
And I would always get in trouble because like I would get soda cans, like I'd you know, they would sell soda and snacks.
Yeah. And hot dogs. I always wanted a hot dog.
Yeah, and I would always get a soda, and then I would tear up the cans. Like, I would just destroy them, and he would always get pissed off at me because he thought I was gonna hurt myself with the cans.
Wow. And
stuff like that. So like, yeah, he was very like a rule-oriented guy. But the only distinct characters I remember from that was a family that my mom called the Card Sharks, and it was like,
God,
it was like two like teenage girls and their dad. And they had these massive binders of cards. And they would have like 10 of every card. You know, they had every fucking Pokemon, right?
Jesus.
And the dude, like, would wear, like, sunglasses. He looked like a fucking poker player. No. Like, he was like a sleazy looking guy. Yeah, I think I remember. You know? And like, they would come in with their huge binders of Pokemon cards. And they were there to trade. And they clearly were trying to get nice cards off of kids.
Yeah.
They were going around trying to make trades and get the cards that were worth the most money so they could resell them and shit like that. And my mom was always like, we were not allowed to trade with them, you know, and they always had like they had price guides, but theirs were like binders with printed price guides in it that they had printed, you know. So they were just basically going around trying to get nice cards and shit, like fucking Yu-Gi-Oh villains, you know, like literal Yu-Gi-Oh villains in the fucking Pokemon card league. And I heard tell that they actually eventually got kicked out.
Awesome.
Because they were obviously shysters, you know.
What an awesome culture Pokemon brought about.
Yeah, very odd. I remember that, you know, we'd have kids over and stuff, and we'd trade and shit with them. And there was this one kid who I had, like, sort of briefly become friends with, who lived, like, right outside of our neighborhood. I think he was, like,
I remember that kid.
I think he was there on holiday.
Man.
Did he?
Yeah, he had a PlayStation and a Crash Bandicoot. That's the only time I ever saw it.
But, he, like, I think he was only there for the summer. It was, like, his parents were split up kind of thing, and he was there for, like, a little while type thing. Because I only remember him being around for a few months.
He would drink pickle juice. Everyone thought he was weird.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But, like, this kid, you know...
He was the Johnny from Ed, Edd n Eddy.
He was only over a few times, and, like, we kind of hung out with him, and he seemed kind of cool. But there was one day, because we would leave our Pokemon cards out, right? We would always have them just scattered all over the place. And there was a time where the dining room table was just coated in a pile of Pokemon cards, right? And, you know, obviously our mom would always tell us to pick them up, and we fucking wouldn't. So, like, there was just Pokemon cards everywhere.
It was awesome.
Like, falling off the table amounts. And this is a huge table. It's just covered in Pokemon cards. And, like, we were having, like, a pool party or something. And I come in, and I notice that Charizard isn't there.
Dun dun.
You know? And I'm like, where the fuck's Charizard? My mom is like... where the fuck's Charizard, right? So we have, you know, we have people over, and this kid who happens to be the new kid, you know, my mom's like, new kid around who I don't know or trust. Turns out, new kid had taken Charizard and taken it back to his house.
Jesus.
And had lied to his parents that he had traded for it.
Wow.
And then my mom went to his parents and was like, he didn't trade for that. So he had to give back Charizard.
What a fucking asshole.
It was the kind of thing where, like, because I was kind of friends with him, like, I didn't want to be too hard on him for it, because we got Charizard back, so I didn't care that much, but Mom was like, you know, he's not coming back around, kind of thing. And I was just kind of like, well, you did try to fuck us over, like, and, he was not around again.
You fucked us on the Charizard, kid.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole.
Like, you know, kids who, in my neighborhood, who I didn't even like, didn't stoop so low as to steal Charizard, you know, like... It's like...
It's an honor system, man.
Yeah, like, wow.
You gotta be a thief.
How you gotta steal the Charizard?
There's a certain respect that comes with having a Charizard.
Yes. So, yeah, he was a real piece of shit, and I hope he died in a gutter. Although we got Charizard back, so it's not that big a deal. But you don't steal Charizard and live to tell about it. Like, if this had been The Godfather, he'd be dead, right?
He would have woken up with a horse head in his bed. That was Sopranos.
A Charizard head in his bed. That was fucking Godfather.
Okay, yeah.
Sopranos. Why would they have a horse?
I don't know. Why wouldn't this? It's like 9 seasons. You don't think there was a horse at some point in The Sopranos?
I don't know, man. I haven't seen The Sopranos. I didn't get the impression it was nearly the same scale as The Godfather, though.
What?
Like, The Godfather's like... The guy with the horse head was like he owned a ranch, and it was like his prized horse.
He was just some character. Like, he wasn't important.
I don't feel like The Sopranos would be threatening people of that caliber.
Okay,
because I thought they were more like...
Like a, you know, becoming big... So I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't seen The Sopranos.
None of us have seen The Sopranos.
And I've only seen like 45 minutes of Godfather. So.
Damn, dude.
Have you seen Godfather?
Yeah. Okay. I watched the first 2, and then I decided not to watch 3.
That's for the best.
Because I didn't like 2 very much. Just weird. Everyone says Godfather 2 is the perfect one. I'm like,
1 is the one that's the
Godfather
most critically acclaimed.
A lot more.
But anyway, yeah. So that was like our early life with Pokemon cards, and it eventually got to the point where there was just too much to keep up with, you know, and like they started changing them and stuff. And inevitably, what happens with every card game is that they start changing the rules in small ways and changing the levels of the cards, so that basically there's always a power creep. Newer cards are always stronger than older ones, and therefore your older ones become worthless.
Yeah.
You know, with the exception of like a few older cards that are overpowered and have to be banned.
Yeah.
Or limited. Like Yu-Gi-Oh is real bad about that, where like the first few sets of Yu-Gi-Oh cards are worthless because they were so underpowered and the game was so unbalanced at the beginning. And then other cards are like banned because they were way too strong. So now it's like a totally different game. It was
just such a simple game to begin with, and now it's such a complex game.
But Pokemon became more simple, and like it became like the cards just kept getting more and more powerful and stuff.
I don't think it's become more simple. I think it's more complicated than it was to begin with.
I don't know.
The newest set.
I wouldn't say it's any different. It's maybe a little bit more complicated.
Because you got a deck in that newest set, right?
Probably.
Because when we had got decks, we had gotten like it was basically the new starter deck, so they're really simplified.
Could be.
Whereas like beyond that, I think it's equally or if not more complex than it used to be.
But in any case,
it's still a simple game.
There reached a point. It was pretty much like, because with things from my childhood, usually the moment I got out of it was when I stopped being able to keep up with it. Right, like a lot of the shows and stuff I was into, like for instance Inuyasha. There was one weekend that we had to go to Mima's house because my parents were out of town, and Mima didn't have cable.
Yeah.
And so I missed that week's Inuyasha, and I just never caught up. Like I stopped caring. Like it was probably 17 or 18 episodes in, and I was like really into the show, and then just because I missed a week, I just felt like I would never be able to follow it again because I couldn't catch up to the story.
Wouldn't have mattered at all.
No, not with Inuyasha. It probably would not have mattered. But like that's how I was with everything. Like if I started missing it, then it was like, well, now I don't know what it's about anymore, kind of thing. And with Pokemon, you know, I'd been into it for like 4 solid years, but like when we moved to Florida for 3 months, then it was like we still had cable.
It became detached.
But like, we were a little bit more detached. Like we didn't do Pokemon League anymore, and we didn't have any money, so we weren't buying the cards. And then like, you know, Pokemon cards had gotten into like a weird phase where like because there had been the Gold and Silver games came out, and then there were card sets for Gold and Silver. Because like with Pokemon, it was the base set, and then the Jungle set, and then the third one I don't remember. Fossil set. It went base set, Jungle, Fossil, and then that was when they started doing the Team Rocket cards, and then they started doing the Trainer cards, and those all sucked. So like Pokemon cards started going downhill, and it was a while before Ruby and Sapphire came out, which was like 2003. So like Pokemon cards were going downhill, and we weren't able to buy them anymore, and then like we kind of got out of that, and then I started getting into anime in general, and so like just that was sort of where Pokemon waned for me. And then when Ruby and Sapphire came out, like I wasn't as hyped for it because, you know, those 4 years where I'd been super into Pokemon, it had been like all encompassing, and then now I was kind of getting into other stuff, and like I just didn't care for Ruby at all. Like I got to like the 3rd gym and I just stopped.
I had gotten pretty far. I got like 7 badges, but then it was just like I really didn't like the Pokemon in that game very much, and I didn't like the music because it went to that like annoying horn sounding style.
I didn't mind the music, but like I hated that it was like so water heavy. Like you were always surfing around everywhere.
It is very a water centric game. You need like 2 water Pokemon to get through it.
It was odd, and I wasn't that into the Pokemon in that gen, and then like we didn't get the cards for it because I was spending my money on other things.
The cards started looking really.
It was like that was when I started having an allowance. Was around that time, so like I would spend my money on anime and shit, and like just Pokemon kind of fell by the wayside, and like that was when I became less interested in the franchise as a whole, and I didn't get back into it till like White and Black, and then but you played Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah.
And everything. So, did we end the last episode and start? Yeah, we did, right?
Whoa.
We ended the Pokemon cards episode and started a new one, right?
No.
Okay, next time on Digi Bros, we'll talk about more shit.